Yeah. It's not that it's bad or nothing. It's just that it's a class that we're going to address some things that are very serious and very important, and everybody ought to know. Every Jewish family ought to know, but they're not won't always be pleasant. Some of the stuff that we're going to go over here, and guess we're just going to disregard all that. Go ahead and do it anyway. I'll tell you what, it is Texas after all. Yeah. All right. This is going to be almost like a military instruction, honestly. One of the things they used to give us in the Marine Corps before we went out on 72s was like an extended vacation, is they would say, do not add or subtract from the population. So we're going to start with, before we get into the discussion of marriage, we're going to talk about snus. And this is very much open. If y'all have any thoughts and you'd like to, bring them up, by all means. But we're going to start with the discussion of snus. Who knows what snus or snuit is? Okay. Sneut. Okay. Who knows what that is? Who can tell me? Anybody tell me what that is? That is, well, they know because they done already said it already, but that is propriety, right? Modesty. Okay. This is a huge, huge, huge deal. And I love the fact, and this is probably one of the best things that I like about Benei Avraham, is we're modest, aren't we? Everybody here is modest. Modesty is super important. And sometimes we seem to forget about the Gentile world we came from, because all of us came from a Gentile world. Unless you grew up Jewish in a Jewish home, and I don't reckon I've seen a single person come through that I know for sure has done that, except for the kids, Unless you grew up in a Jewish home, you knew what it was like. You knew what it was like to go out with a girl, or be a girl going out with a guy, that she wouldn't dress the way she should be. You really, if you were dressed the way you should be, you weren't acting the way you should be. There was, at the beginning, a young man and a young woman in an inappropriate situation they were not sexually or mentally mature enough to handle. And that's a fact. And we did that as teenagers, 16, 17 years old. It didn't help us. It didn't serve us. I mean, you remember the amount of drama that you felt with girlfriends and boyfriends, and people wanting to kill themselves over the fact that their boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with them because they were involved emotionally and sexually in ways they never should be, the way God didn't intend for them to be. It's not healthy for you to be in a situation where you're sharing yourself with someone else, with a person you cannot trust. That breeds that dangerous emotional, psychological state. And sometimes people don't recover. A lot of times, the reason why our marriages, when we finally do get into a quality and a good marriage, they have problems, it's because all the other times that we've done it wrong. We went outside because God set rules for us. He gave rules of modesty. And that was the intent and the purpose, so that men could be able to worship the way they do at Benei Avraham, Baruch Hashem, right? And not be led astray by temptation. I can tell you, I remember times sitting in churches, even in Baptist churches, and there were women dressed in such a way that my attention was not on anything on God. My attention was on wicked things, because that woman doesn't belong to me. What business do I have looking at her like that? And no one was preaching from the pulpit. And I'll say this out there, to you folks out there, I want you to know that there are a lot of things, there are a lot of libelous, slanderous things said about Messianics. One of them is that they preach works salvation. That's not true. I don't think y'all would probably understand it if you did, but you're welcome to come by and learn. It's not like they're trying to prevent you to come in. Yeah, come in and sit down. Our rabbi is nice. He'd love to show you all the things that we do. And no, that's not it. there's a lot of things said, but I've been to the churches where there was a whole lot of celebration of spirituality and no holiness, especially all Pentecostals out there. Not trying to be rude, but y'all got all kinds of Pentecostalness, all kinds of charismatic aspect, but no holiness. And to say holiness, I mean set aside. And that's what we're talking about today, is how to have a set aside relationship with God. And I'll start off with this concept. When I first began to prepare my heart for my shidduch, my match, I decided I had surrendered, giving up dating. Dating had failed me. The Disney story, where you're going to fall in love, and I had given up on that. I was no longer interested. The story, Disney has been wrong. Pixar had been wrong. It didn't work out the way I thought it would. And I had surrendered to that. I had given up and said, okay, that's where it's done. And I'll tell you what, if you do look at this video and share it with somebody who's going through troubles in their marriage, or somebody who might be considering marriage, look it over, because this is going to have some important things in it. All right, I'll move on. I'm not trying to waste your time here, but this is going to be a little bit boring. First thing is this. When you are a man or a woman and there are other young men around, do not be thinking about any of those people are going to end up with. Don't have that mentality. That's a possibility. But if you're showing up to a place of worship, it's not a dating place. This isn't the well. You know what I mean? If anybody gets that, imagery. It's not the well. This is the place of worship. That being said, God will provide that one for you. And he did for me. And I'll be honest with you, it's the greatest relationship. I've never had a friend that was a guy that was as good as my relationship with my wife. So long as I'm obedient, it works great. That's a joke. Anyways, so the first thing is this: don't try to show off for people. I see women and they put on all that makeup. As long as we have been married, I don't reckon my wife has ever put on makeup. The truth is she puts on up all that makeup, but guess what? When it all comes off, you see what you're really dealing with. You know what I mean? It's better that you didn't have makeup at all, and then he could see you for who you are. Don't try to peacock. Don't try to show off. Don't try to be fake. Don't try to present yourself as something you aren't. If you're dealing with the possibility, you think, well, maybe this person might be a good match for me, don't try to impress them. That's really not you. Don't lie. Don't start a relationship off with deception, telling them a bunch of stories about you that aren't true. You do not have to win that person. If that person is going to be right for you, they're going to be right for you. You don't have to get them on your side. Next thing is keep your hands to yourself. A good relationship, a good shidduchim can be ruined by inappropriate boundaries being crossed. That means you might have had a righteous relationship before God, maybe even a righteous marriage. But when you cross the boundaries of touching that you shouldn't, you're ruining the perfect garden that God's trying to create. That person does not belong to you until you are married. And that needs to be very clearly identified. I don't care if you are 110% convinced that that person is going to be the right person for you. If you touch that person before that time, you are showing you do not have faith in God to fulfill that. If you do not put God first in your marriage, you idolize your spouse or your potential future spouse. You are putting them as a God above God and saying, well, I know that God has this person for me now, but I'm going to go ahead and choose what I want more than what he wants. And I'm not saying God does not show mercy at times. Yes, he does. But a lot of times people have problems in marriage for years because they didn't practice chastity before marriage. And that's 100% true. All right, moving on from that. I could say a lot about that, but you're not going to listen. So I'm just kidding. It's snus is not just about being modest. Yes, do be modest. Women, your bodies are beautiful before God and dangerous in the wrong situations. Okay. Not every man needs to see you. Not every man needs to think, oh, how beautiful you are. The Bible says that, see, I got it on my list here, that beauty is vain and favor is deceitful. You don't need to impress everybody with your looks. Besides, it ain't like you made yourself. What do you have to glory for? God made you that way. It's much better that you don't put on the makeup sometimes. It's much better that you just seem simple and common. You're not trying to show everyone your physique, and instead, it's better that you keep yourself humble, because God loves a humble woman, just like he loves a humble man. God loves humility. God rewards what we do in private, he rewards openly. So be careful about that. Be careful how you sit. I know it's a dumb thing. My mom used to tell me it all the time, sit like a gentleman. I tell my daughter, sit like a lady. Be careful how you sit. People are watching you. If you're a young lady today, chances are you're not ugly. I don't think I've seen a single ugly woman in this entire synagogue. Not that I'm particularly looking, because my wife does have a shotgun. But that being said, I haven't seen a single ugly woman in this synagogue. And if you are pretty, every single guy knows it. You don't need to draw more attention to yourself. It's a beautiful thing for a woman to cover her head. And why does she cover her head anyways? I remember when my wife started covering her head, and she was like, well, I'm going to start covering my head. And I said, well, as long as you don't cover your face too, what I mean? If you do, it's got to be black, and you got to get some ninja size, you know what I mean? Anyway, it's not important. So it's a humble thing. It's showing humility before the living God, that you're covering your head and that you're being humble. Be careful also how you sit. Be careful of the things you're doing. Some of the young ladies are starting to get older. Men are not all good men. As a matter of fact, there probably are a whole 10% of men out there that do not have that compulsion to be drawn into lust. Do not feed the devil, okay? Leave those dogs at the door and don't let them in your house. I would personally recommend that. Now, this is just my personal druthers, and some of the stuff's going to be my personal opinion. Boy, I wish Paul was more clear about that when he wrote some of this stuff, but this ain't Bible here. This is just me talking to you. I really wish y'all wouldn't date at all, honestly. I wish that y'all would even be more traditional and let your parents have a say and a thought in who should marry. I can tell you that if it were up to me, I'd probably have chosen Mandy Moore or Taylor Swift, and that would have not worked out well. They wouldn't have liked me. I wouldn't have been the right person for them. Not to mention, they wouldn't know what things that I need. God hadn't prepared that woman for me, and y'all women would all just chose Justin Bieber. And if you look at, back then, I'm sure he's a good-looking guy, and Justin Bieber now looks all doped out. That ain't the kind of guy you want. Your parents know you. Now, I know you think they don't. I know you're teenagers now, so therefore you know everything. But the fact is, your parents know you very well, and they're not trying to say, well, let me give you the biggest dork out of there. We'll have you marry him. That's not the idea. They're trying to find somebody for you that's going to be good for you. It's all right for you to listen to them. And instead of going ahead and thinking you know yourself, you don't know yourself. You don't know what you want. You think that this entire time, your parents have been changing your diapers and been going through your bumps and your sad times and your happy times and done everything for you, and they don't know who would be good for you and who wouldn't be. If it were me, I think that an arranged marriage is a beautiful thing. It's not the way Disney describes it. Nobody's being forced into an arranged marriage, okay? You're not going to be stuck with old Laser Wolf, although Laser Wolf is a cool name. Anyways, so you're not going to be stuck with that. You're going to have your choice. You will. But at the same time, this is something that's going to affect your entire life. And in a bad way, potentially too. Why not let somebody with some common sense have a say in the conversation? They done bought 25 cars already. How about they help you buy the car so you don't end up with a car that's going to cost you $300 a month for the next 30 years and going to break down on you and it won't be useful. They know some things that, they've been through this. And a little bit of humility when dealing with your parents goes a long way, especially when it comes to having that right person for you. Now, I just want to read this a little bit to you. Proverbs 31:30 says, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. I like that too. Charm is deceitful. Don't seduce anyone. And you guys out there, keep your shirts on. You're not as pretty as you think you are, okay? Seriously, you're not, okay? Don't believe the Disney lie. Don't believe that you need to have this emotions. I just want to make clear, lust and love are not the same thing. They don't come from the same place. There is an energy that is between a man and a wife that God forms in a proper relationship. Go ahead, man. You about to say something?
Would you define charm and also the difference between lust and lust?
Okay. So charm is when you're trying to manipulate somebody and make them want you. And lust is you fulfilling in your own personal wants and desires. It doesn't necessarily have to be, sexual. I lust after a Tesla, but that ain't what God has for me. You know what I mean? I lust after, mansions and making lots of money. And so far, that ain't what God's had for me either. And remember, even remember Tevye, if I was a rich man, la 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 la. Well, that just ain't what that's meant for me. That's lust. Love is something different. Love is a choice. You choose to love. You choose to love, and it's demonstrated by sacrifice. If you love something, you are willing to sacrifice for it. And if you got some young boy who says, oh, I love you, you're so wonderful, you're so amazing, I think about you all the time. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go out there and make $35,000, come back and we'll talk. I'm just saying there is sacrifice that needs to be done. Do what? 40K minimum. Got it. Okay, I'm done with that. So now I'm going to mention that. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Rebbitzin, and what a blessing, Rabbi, that you and Mora Mayim have such a great shidduch to form this and the family and all the children that you have. That's an example of real. Now, the fake is the example of sadness. You will have your heart ripped out of your body for making the wrong decision. You will have your heart torn out of your chest. You will be so sad and so depressed. And no matter what anybody gives you, it won't be enough to fill the hole in your soul if you choose the other option. Let me read this to you. She brought up love. Greater man hath, this is from John 15:13. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. This is the biblical identification of love, being what you're willing to sacrifice. Your parents love you. How do you know? Because they made you breakfast in the morning and they took care of you. And when you threw up in the middle of the night, they got up and they handled it. And, everything that you needed, they were there because they love you. And that's real and it's genuine. Now I'm going to talk a little bit to you young men. And I'm going to say this very seriously. I don't mean to, be a bore. I know that there's young men out there that they come in here in this synagogue and they're the most righteous ever. And they get out there and they talk about all kinds of foul, disgusting things. I know. I was there before. But I got something to share with you. My son, attend unto my wisdom. Proverbs, by the way. I hope I made it, wrote it at the end. But anyways, I think it's Proverbs chapter 5. My son, attend to my wisdom and bow thine ear to mine understanding. Thou mayest regard discretion, that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. We have a word for strange woman. It's called shiksa. Heard that before? That's a woman that doesn't belong to you, okay? That's every single woman that is not your wife, okay? Just so you know. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb. Her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. Hear me now, therefore, O you children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh to the door of her house, lest thou give thy honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. And mourn at last when thy flesh and thy body are consumed, and say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Here's the deal, and this needs to be clear. If you go to a place with the wrong woman, it is going to hurt bad. First of all, I want you to know, any single time that you decide to perform the act with a woman that is inappropriate, if you're outside of marriage, you are jeopardizing your future, because it eventually will lead to children. You may think it won't, but it'll eventually get there. You are forming a bond with a woman you did not belong to. Therefore, you are defying the recommendations, the teachings of Melech David, King David. You are crossing barriers you should have never crossed, and they will have severe consequences. How can you justify the fact that you're taking a part and bringing life into the world and so casually dismiss it as a moment of pleasure? You will pay for it. You will pay. The Bible says, for be ye not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever you sow, that shall you also reap. And let me tell you this today. We have a cousin of ours that's a cousin of my wife's who is in prison right now because he would not listen to that. He's a sweet man. We loved him. We went to family reunions with him all the time. She loved him. I loved him. Wonderful man. But because he got caught up with the wrong woman, that price cost him everything. There's no way that I can express this to you that will be sufficient, because guess what? I read Proverbs as a young man too, and I was stupid and didn't listen. And you're going to be stupid and not listen too. But when the days come that you're brought to a piece of bread, know that you've been told these words right here. You better keep your hands off of the woman that does not belong to you, period, no matter what. Because the cost of it is in destruction. And you know, if you think that you're going to spend time with a woman to the point where it would result in you potentially having children, how can you ever imagine doing that and not thinking that you have an ultimate responsibility to those kids? What kind of man do you think you are to show off and act like you're all big and bad for a woman and not be there when she needs you during pregnancy, when she needs you during those times of your life? You ain't no kind of man. You're a little boy. And you got no business playing that kind of game. So my recommendation is you do not take that step unless you understand the responsibility that's going with it. A man is not a man just because he's strong and he can fight. A man is a man because he takes responsibility for what is his burden to do so. And if you are sharing yourself with a woman, you're responsible for that woman, for her safety, for her care, and for providing for her. Bible says that a man that doesn't provide for his family is worse than an infidel. All right, let's get moving here. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about we've got our dating thing, and just to kind of like recap here, we talked about synagogues. Ladies, please, especially I see this in the Messianic synagogues. I'm not trying to diss y'all. I love y'all, and I love the Christians too, but put some clothes on. And if you're going in front of the synagogue, right, and you're wearing a really thin dress, don't walk in front of the light and do your dances in front of the light. What are you trying to do? Reenact some kind of ancient Babylonian ritual? I mean, there's no John the Baptist. He got his head cut off a long time ago. Thank you very much. We don't need to play that game. Don't be dancing in front of the light, attracting men. Don't wear loose clothing when you're going and doing these dances at the Messianic synagogues. What are you thinking? Oh yeah, no, it's loose, and I'm telling you, stuff falling out all over the place. That's the reason why I don't go no more. It's awkward. And you don't need to touch women. Men do not need to touch women unless you're married to a woman, and that's hands off her. Does that mean handshakes? Well, you know what? It wouldn't hurt for you to go ahead and just do that too. There's no real need for you to touch somebody else's wife. Okay, it's just not. I don't understand. It's a beautiful dance routine, but it's just a healthy thing. Even Paul says it. It's good for a man not to touch a woman. Sure shooting, not somebody else's wife touching a woman. And that'd just be a healthy thing for you. And I'm not saying it to be rude. I know y'all are wonderful people, but be careful how you present yourself, because you're reenacting every synagogue service should be conceptually a reenactment one day of the Beis Hamikdash. It's not, but it's conceptually supposed to be. So you're trying to take it part of a holy act. Meanwhile, you're dancing right in front of the light, and everybody can see everything. I'm telling you what, the holy thoughts are not what's going through those men's minds. So, continue with that. I'm just going to say this. I was at a synagogue not that long ago, and there was a very good friend of mine who the wife divorced him. And just month afterwards, she is up there dancing hand in hand in front of the whole synagogue with another guy. Well, I tell you what, that is not building the bonds of fellowship. And then she's holding the hands and looking at his eyes. And meanwhile, the husband that she's divorced is sitting right there. How do you think that breeds righteousness? That's some churchy stuff right there. We don't need that. Okay. So, let's talk about the actual deals of marriage. Once you do have marriage. Well, first off, marriage needs a man. Okay. Marriage needs a man. That means you, sir, are cannon fodder, and you need to know it. If somebody comes to that door right there, and Rabbi's here with his wife and his children, and he's up there to cause problems, and we ain't all in there, and I'm not here, guess what? He will end his life to save his family. And as a man, you need to understand that's what it's about. You're now a combat unit, okay? Hopefully not, but you will not allow, while you have breath drawn in you, to allow any harm to come to your wife or your children. So that's the first thing you need to understand. You're responsible for them. They're under your charge. If it's time for bringing in food, you better not be going out there eating while they're starving. You better be taking care of them first. You are a servant of that family. That is 100% your task. So if you don't like being a servant and you don't like that, well, maybe you ought to think a little bit before you go ahead and get married. Next thing on there is that you need to be responsible for the spirituality of your family. The reason why that man is a rabbi is because he was first a rabbi of his house. That's absolutely correct. I guarantee you. He was first a rabbi of his own children. You need to be responsible for your house and the spirituality of your house. Now, you're going to slide, and your wife will catch you. She's a good woman. But the fact is, it is, yep. Well, the fact is, we won't go there. But the fact is that you are responsible for that. God holds you accountable for that. And what God holds you accountable for, you're not going to escape from that accountability. You're responsible for the safety of your family. That means if your house is not clean, go clean it up. Okay? Yes, of course, you got a family to get together and do it, but if the oil needs to be changed, go change the oil. If something needs to be done, go do it. Lead from the front. Don't lead with your mouth. Lead with your actions. All right. Secondly, is marriage needs a holy woman. Every woman who is righteous is married first to Hashem. That is her first responsibility. Secondly, to God, or secondly to man, to her husband. But she's married first to God. A woman is not owned. No one owns a woman. That's silly. She allows herself for a time period, to be under the authority of her husband, but she's not owned. Okay, don't be thinking you own no woman. She submits herself. You do not dominate her. Don't be going around peacocking and thinking you can control her. You're just going to make her mad and she'll get you in a wreck. But marriage needs a holy woman. A woman, not all mothers are very connected to their children. Some of them are very connected emotional. Some of them are not. Some mothers don't have any problem, like my wife does, getting up late at night because she was up, doom scrolling anyways, and taking care of stuff. But other women don't. And you never, whichever kind of woman she is, you better be the man to back that up. But as a woman, your responsibility is nurturing of your family. This is a tremendous responsibility and blessing. How is it that in all these New Testament writings, nothing was ever said to the level of that women could be saved in childbirth? What a mystery. I don't even know what that means completely. I'm not going to lie. But the fact is, it said that would be saved in women could be saved in giving birth. Isn't that amazing? A woman who takes care of her house is a righteous woman. It is said once that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. I will say this, and don't misinterpret it, but it is a good logical point. That mother is God in the eyes of the child. Now, I'm not saying that in a blasphemy sense. I'm saying that child's idea of God first begins from their mother. And that power that mother has is an element that very naturally and very normally will not be interrupted. Meaning, women will naturally fulfill most of those roles. But if you don't, and if you find yourself alone and sad and depressed, and if your husband is not doing his job, know that God will handle it. There are a lot of women out there, and unfortunately, it should be the case. It should be the case that we got a bunch of men out here, and if for some reason Valerissa goes and gets married, you're just sitting right there, goes and gets married, and she ends up going off there, and some guy isn't nice to her, well, we're all going to get together and just line him out real good. Back in the day, that's how it would happen. Remember that? Right? So he'd be afraid to be rude. He'd treat her like she was a queen, because if he didn't, guess what? We'd sort him out. And that was the way things were handled. Nowadays, we've got law enforcement and all that stuff, so things are a little bit different. But the reality of the situation is that God is that man who will line it out. When he crosses you, when he turns on you, when he doesn't fulfill his role as a husband, God is watching. Don't think you don't have an advocate. Women feel so alone. They're alone at home with all these kids and all these responsibilities and all these burdens, and they feel hopeless. And I'm here today. Don't feel hopeless. You've got a man out there that will reckon with any man down here, and he will line them out. He will sort them out. They will not get away for any mistreatment of a woman. God will never let that happen. Now, his anger is sometimes slow. His vengeance is sometimes slow to be repaid. We see that in Naboth's vineyard, but it's coming. And so if he's treating you wrong and he's going out, you don't know where he is right now, and he's leaving you depressed, well, I want to let you know, you do your job, you do what's right, you take care of your kids, and God's going to fix them. Okay? Old cowboy Texan style too. All right. So marriage can be a picture of righteousness for the world, or it can be a picture of evil. Unfortunately, more often than not, it's a picture of evil. I've seen so many relations where the husband and the wife hate each other. And the reason why is because it's not a godly relationship to begin with. Can I tell you something? Kneel down and pray with your husband and wife. A marriage where people pray together, that changes everything. When you are angry and upset and full of tears and you don't know where to go after this, why don't you get your husband and wife and kneel before God and pray? Just ask God to line you out. He listens. He'll sort out the arguments that you guys could never figure out between you. Be a praying couple. All right. So I'm going to get into this, and this is the one that's going to be rough, and I'm afraid that y'all won't listen to this. And this is the destruction of marriage is Lashon Hara, straight up. Okay. I don't care how much your wife makes you angry. Do not go run your mouth about her to your boys. Okay. Ever. Because what happens is when you go out there running your mouth because you're mad at her and you're talking about all the things in the marriage, well, she doesn't do this and she doesn't do this. Then when you come back home, how do you say you love her and embrace her when part of your spirit is now turned against her? Don't speak Lashon Hara against your wife. And wives, don't speak Lashon Hara against your husband. I know we like to talk, and I understand that. And sometimes women are just talking to other women for advice. That's understandable. Don't beat your husband up. If you want to talk to someone, talk to God about it. But the fact is, how are you, the relationship has now unconfessed sin. It has het. Because if I go out there and I were to say, oh, Natasha does this, Natasha does that, Kamala does this, she does that, and then I see Kamala again, I just have that guilty look on my face. And she's like, you've been talking about me, haven't you, boy? I know it, right? And see, the thing is that now I've got unconfessed sin. And what did Yeshua say? He said, how are you going to bring your sacrifice to me when you've got aught against your brother? And your brother, in this case, is your wife. Now, if your brother is your wife, then that's not the right way. But it's conceptually speaking here. You know what I mean? I've got aught against my wife, and how is God going to receive my repentance if I won't admit and confess it to her, right? And I do want to recommend this. Whatever happens before the hoopah, I'm just going to be real. Leave that. Let that go. The hoopah is a new life. You don't need to go and talk about all of your exploits. That's going to make for a very rough time. It was forgiven. It's gone. It's over with. I'm just saying. But during the marriage, if there is a time you have spoken against your spouse, you need to go to them. You need to admit it. You say, look, I was really mad at you, and I told some people some things. And guess what? She may not be nice about it, and that's all right. She didn't have to be, but you need to confess it to her. Lashon Hara destroys more marriages than just about anything. Lashon Hara also leads to infidelity, because chances are the person that you're talking to is another woman, which is going to make her even more mad. Another woman, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about this thing. I would never treat you like that. Yeah, you would, because otherwise you wouldn't be talking to me about this to begin with, right? So seriously, if you have done this, go and fix it, and don't do it anymore. Don't speak bad about your wife or husband. We're just about done. I'll let you know whenever a man like that says that. You got about an hour to go. See you soon.
Oh, hello. Okay. Just wanted to say that if you are having serious problems in your relationship, you can go to someone that's trusted, a religious leader or maybe a marriage counselor or something like that, and work it out that way. But especially if you have, your friends, you don't want to necessarily open that up because you don't want to affect your friendships. So yeah, there's ways to deal with marriage problems. Certainly prayer should be number one. And I think the private setting of marriage counseling with someone trusted is also a very important avenue to take.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Obviously, if you do need somebody to talk to, and we all do, go into the rabbi. His name is Ruben Vega. Would be the right choice. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about selfishness. Everybody is selfish. Everybody is. You're going to have to lose a little bit of yourself in this relationship. I wish I could go into details about this, but I reckon this subject's just a little bit too difficult for me to go into all right here. But I'll say this. We live in an age where, unfortunately, the prevalence of women being dressed in inappropriate ways and the different videos and things like that are so prevalent that men seeking out those kinds of images are in the high percentile of common. There's nothing wrong with you uninstalling Facebook or TikTok if you need to, or whatever those things, okay? I just want to say to men out there, and every single man knows exactly what I'm talking about. I understand what you're going through. I know it's a difficult thing, but you're looking at things that are inappropriate is destroying your relationship with your wives, okay? Or future wives, okay? And I want you to know that I know that you're probably not going to stop today, okay? I know that, but you need to be working on it. You need to be working on steadily doing whatever you can. And if you get in a situation where you can't help but go there, why don't you put it down for now and go read from the Torah and study the Bible, study from the sages, study and read something and pray that God would prevent you from going into that sin. I know that you have been exposed to things that you can't get out of your mind. You had no choice about it, some of you. Some of you have been exposed to things that people put on you that you never even knew about. You didn't mean to. You were an innocent child when it happened. I know because I was in that situation. But the fact is, those are hooks in your flesh, and they are dragging you down, and they're dragging your relationship down. And it is good for a woman, if you're in the situation, you have a problem with a spouse that's dealing with that, it's good for you to be tolerant and understanding and to pray for him and encourage him to help him to get over that, because it's something that is an unfortunate reality because of the world that we live in that has become so filthy, absolutely filthy before the living God. But the fact is, my brother out there, you know what it's doing to you. And every single time you look at your wife, after comparing her from the other women that are fake, by the way, that you're looking at, you're losing a little bit of that relationship. And I just want you to know that I know what you're going for, and I'm going to continue to pray for you out there. And if you ever wanted to send me an email, privately, I'm just, if you want to talk to me about it, I'm there for you. Okay, I love you. I'm there for you, and I want to encourage you, but I also want to tell you that it's not helpful for you, and it is poison. It's going to drag you down eventually. So if you know what I mean out there, and you do, okay, then, know that it can't stay like that forever, okay? All right. I want to mention something that I heard from Rob DeRoer, and I agree with it. I think it's the most wonderful thing, and it is going to have a little bit to do with the marital relation between a man and a woman. That arena, I follow what Rob DeRoer says is based upon when the woman is ready and willing for it, okay? Suffice to say this, a true union between man and woman occurs when the woman is ready for that to take place, not when the man has coerced her to do so. That's the wrong way. As a matter of fact, Rob DeRoer says that that can create serious problems, even in offspring. I don't know that, but I will say this. It's not appropriate for it to be like that. You are to respond to your wife's needs for the fulfillment of the promise to be fruitful and multiply. Your wife is not your chew toy to be used whenever you want it to be. Okay? Simple as that. And I'll leave it right there. Okay, I'm going to say this thing. When you see a beautiful woman on the side of the road, don't look at her. We know we're out in Gentile society, and you get a group of buddies together, and they're like, oh, look at her. Don't be part of that. Because as soon as you start doing that, you're walking away from your wife. Don't be part of it. Like, man, I don't know. I didn't see her. I'm not interested. Don't be part of the catcalling game. Next is women. Some women, this probably is not going to be a problem in this community, but it is a problem for most women on the outside. Drop the guy friends. Drop the personal communications with the guys that your husband is not involved with. Let it go. I don't need to have any women friends out there, and I don't, because why? I've got one woman friend, and that's more than I would ever need in 1,000 years. I could have I could talk to her about anything, and she can literally talk to me about anything. So I don't need another woman friend. It doesn't mean that I can't be friendly towards women or kind or sweet or loving towards them. It just means we don't need to be that close. If I really need, something, if I can talk to Maya, I'm sure I can. But the fact is, I feel so much more comfortable doing so with the rabbi present, right? Ain't no reason why we need to do that. We don't need to have personal friends without our spouses being involved in those conversations of other genders. Okay. We're just about done for real. Okay. So the destruction of a family home is the worst satanic attack in history. It is the most effective satanic attack in history. Whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, or you're Jewish, or your Hebrew roots, or your Black Hebrew Israelites, it doesn't matter what your religious background is. I said background. Whatever your religious background is, it doesn't matter. The destruction of the family home is death to the community. There have been so many bad, negative things from our society that we have seen because our family homes are being destroyed. I can tell you, I have seen so many men in Christian homes who were on their way to become preachers and lead churches who one or the other spouse got caught up, and then it resulted in divorce, and now both of their children are in the worst possible scenarios. Don't let this happen to your family. If you have made a mistake, well, hello, God sent Yeshua down here for a reason, right? We have a way of dealing with mistakes. He knows that we make mistakes. Let's fix it. Try not to let it end in divorce, which may mean some difficult decisions on your part. Keep the family together at all costs. When you agree to marry someone, it better be forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. If they're a cancer patient and there's no way they can even reproduce with you, and that is the end of the story, you're theirs to the very end. To the very end, no matter what. If they have failed you, now some marriages just ain't going to work out. I know that. But we have to have the mentality of having it forever, because there's some marriages that won't. And if we don't have the mentality of having it forever, we won't keep it together ever. We'll just quit at the moment of the drop of a hat. Marriage has to be forever. And you can't give up on it, because God isn't going to give up on you. And he didn't give up on Israel. The simple fact that we have a representing the Israeli state up there shows that God doesn't give up on his marriage to us. We cannot give up on our marriages to each other. Lastly, and I'll just end right here. Before you get into marriage, and if you ain't married yet, you always have a choice. But before you get into marriage, how much do you really hate your parents to think your parents don't know what's best for you? You should be looking at your parents and say, hey, look, I'm not going to let you run my life, but I am going to honor you. It says children honor your parents. I'm going to honor you with helping me with this decision. Please, when your kids get older and you start thinking about marriage, do not look at your parents as enemies to your future, but your friends to establish you in a way that's going to keep you out of a lot of problems. And that being said, for those who do find true love and happiness, it's not going to be because of Pixar and Disney. It's going to be because God wove and joined your soul. And I hope that everyone here has a wonderful marriage. And I'm so glad that we got so many people. I don't think I see an unhappy couple. So much of a future that's going to continue to rebuild with Benei Avraham over and over again. I'm sorry it was so long. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you got something from this.